Welcome back to another episode of Lock in Buffalo. I'm your host, Michael Nanula, and we are in studio today with some phenomenal guests. We have resident loan officer Anthony Nanula in the house again, as well as Ben Domagala from Own New York Real Estate. We're going to get educated by these gentlemen today about the Buffalo and Western New York real estate market. What's going on in the housing market, what's going on in the financing market and mortgage market. So we're going to learn. We're going to go down some really interesting topics, so stay tuned in. And welcome to the pod, Ben, first time in the studio.
Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you so much, guys. This is awesome. Super, super cool place. This is going to be great, man. I'm super excited.
Yeah, we're excited to have you in the studio. We're excited to pick your brain, get your perspective on what's going on in the housing market here. Obviously, everybody sees the headlines pretty constantly here on the national stage about how hot the Buffalo market is. So, both for people here in Western New York as well as people that are from Western New York and have moved away and like to keep their finger on the beat of what's going on here in Buffalo. That's really what this podcast is for, to kind of keep people tuned in for those of us that are here on the ground. What's going on, get your insights from the realtor perspective, Anthony from the financing perspective. We have, developers in the pod as well, business owners, operators. So we really kind of like to get these unique, different perspectives. And for me, I'm going on this journey to get educated as much as anybody that's watching the show, right? Sure. So I'm not here to be a talking head and tell everybody what's going on. I'm here to absorb as much information and then share it with our audience so we could all be better informed, better educated, and make better decisions, both for our personal situations as well as a community. Sure. So, Ben, why don't we start off, let everybody know who you are, what you do, and how you became Ben Domagala.
Well, I am Ben Domagala, folks. I work over, like you said, at WNY Real Estate. This June will be my 10th year in real estate, having my license.
Congratulations.
Big month
Thank
right
you
now.
Very, very much. I started out young. If there's one thing my mentors told me back then, it was like, by the time you're 10 years in, thank God you started this early. And experience is something you can't replace. And as much as, when I was younger, I was pissed off people wouldn't use me. I look back at it now and I'm like, okay, I needed to get a little bit more experience than a couple.
That's how you get the hunger.
Right.
Yeah. You get the chip on your shoulder, man.
Absolutely. I wasn't always with Own. I started at MJ for a good 3 years, was under a team there. That was like through a family friend that I met the broker. Very, very respected broker. It was a good stepping stone. And then I moved over to Own, where I truly feel like I found my home. I'm very, very big on selling myself, if you will, and allowing myself to be free. It's part of the reason why we're all in this industry, right, is because we are the business.
Yeah.
And then for the past 2 years as a solo agent, I've done over $10 million in volume for the past 2 years.
That's phenomenal.
Closing in on $50 million as a career. Yeah. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, the first 3 years that I was licensed, I didn't really do shit. I was kind of, I was bartending, living that life,
sure.
Doing the whole thing and trying to do both at the same time.
Yeah.
And then eventually I had to make a choice here.
Where were you slinging cocktails at?
So I started ground up restaurants, right? So I was doing dishwashing and then I was hosting and then serving, whatever. I first started serving at New York Beer Beer Project, but my first gig was at Bonefish Grill.
Okay. I used to love Bonefish.
I will tell you,
Grandpa used to love Bonefish too.
Dude,
I'll
tell
bang
you
bang shrimp.
Right now, the best training I ever got was at Bonefish Grill.
Yeah.
It's a chain, so it has a connotation with it, right? But at the same time, they did everything right, man.
Yeah.
They really did. Their
systems.
Sourcing.
It comes down to systems.
That was when I found out I had the gene. My dad was a top beer salesman at Certo Brothers for probably 30 years. Yeah.
Very cool.
So I always had that background, but I never really applied it or thought it applied to me. So serving, I'd look at something I could upsell and be like, okay, I can make more money off this.
Yeah.
Right. So I started applying that and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to become a good server. I'm going to come do this, do whatever kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
And then that it graduated to New York Beer Project. I went to the first location there. And then I went and opened up Hotel Henry, which is no longer Hotel Henry, but I was a shift lead there, started doing stuff like that. And then I really started to take off with wine sales there.
Mm-hmm.
I sold some bottles that people do not get. Like there's this one out in, there's a winery up north, and they sell a specific type of orange wine that I sold like a case in a week. And the winery came out and they were like, we've never had somebody sell this much of this here. So applied that, and then it was bartending, and then I started cocktail bartending at Vera, which, rest in peace. Everybody misses that place.
Yeah,
for sure.
I spent
Became
a lot
a
of nights
staple
there.
very quick.
Oh yeah, I mean it's the birthplace of cocktails in Buffalo.
It really was.
And then it was Patina, and then it was my last place, and I will always call it my break glass in case of emergency place. So in case somebody needs a vacation or something, they're like, hey, can you come sling some cocktails for a little bit? As at Dapper Goose.
Oh, yeah,
Dapper
great
Goose.
spot.
Black Rock.
Yeah.
Beautiful people. I love them. They help me out a lot. I help them out a lot. It's truly one of my favorite places.
Yeah.
I always use that as an example of how an on-premise or a bar restaurant can change the culture of a neighborhood. They really set the tone for Black Rock to kind of start turning the corner big time. They made that neighborhood trendy and desirable to a lot of people in our general age demographic.
Absolutely.
You know, it wasn't on the radar for many.
Well, and it did a lot for. There was a movement in Buffalo for like sustainably sourced and like local farms and stuff like that. And we started shifting from these giant menus that could not be executed properly to you'll never see a menu bigger than a page at Dapper.
Right.
Because, hey, we do these 20 items and we do them incredibly well.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, too bad, so sad.
Yeah.
There's other places that you can come get your fill.
Yeah.
But we excel in all of these areas.
When I go into a restaurant and I see a long menu, I'm immediately turned off.
Yeah,
Like, there's no way you're doing all of this stuff well.
Yeah,
There's just no way.
It's tough, man. And, you know, unfortunately, a lot like I share the same sentiment now, being behind the scenes and everything like that. We can go back to that. But because I'm trying to connect this to the real estate part of it, we're going to sit here and rap about restaurants for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So I was doing all that while licensed.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, it's a different lifestyle, going home at 4 a.m. and waking up at 2 because that's what bartending was. And those are your only friends.
Sure.
So I couldn't do it. And then COVID rolled around. And my wife gave me, not an ultimatum, but she was kind of like, hey, we're getting really serious here. Like, we need some stability. Like, I kind of need you to pick one. You're either going to be still in bartending, still doing this stuff, or you're going to take real estate full time because, you know, nobody knew whether anything was going on in 2020.
That's what most people think when they think I'm going to get into real estate is stability.
Yeah. And it's, well, it's funny, man. It's so funny that you say that. So obviously I made the choice of real estate.
Yeah.
And I'm happy I did that ever since. It's, my life is completely different, and it's for the better.
Absolutely.
I mean,
well, and I'm being obviously facetious, and I'm joking around with you, but you know, when you compare the hospitality industry to the real estate, you if you're going to look at the real estate industry and working in real estate as stable, it's got to be comparative to the hospitality industry, right? Yeah. And I think obviously you cutting your teeth in that business, learning how to communicate with people on the fly, learning how to cut right into the chase, right? Because that's what you're doing. When you're selling, when you're jumping into conversations with people at the table and being able to get to the point where you can actually sell. You could upsell a menu. You could upsell a wine list. You got to be able to sell on the fly. Yeah. So I'm based on what you've been saying, I think that's really kind of when you narrow down to it, I would say that's probably your biggest takeaway, right? Is like your ability to communicate and sell to your customers and identify the wants, the needs, most importantly. Yeah. In those engagements.
Yeah. I need to be able to sink my teeth into something.
Yeah.
I need to be able to feel like what I'm talking about is important. Because if there's one thing that whole I mean, bartending specifically, like anybody will tell you, I became a nerd for that shit. Like I know why you use lemon or citrus juices in shaking cocktails. I know why you shake instead of stirring. I know all the different areas that Scotch comes from. Like I read all the books from Death and Company and all these other crazy cocktail places that were in New York City and stuff like that. Like when I choose to do something, I dive into it because I feel like that's how you're going to get the best results.
Yeah.
I never not want to know something. And you want to talk about an absolute bear of knowledge, the real estate market.
Right.
If you know your shit in the real estate market, you will do well.
Yeah.
It's just
And it's
simply
always
how
shifting.
it goes. Like
You have to be, I think it comes down to when you made that move as well, when you're going from working multiple jobs to working and focusing just in one, career, one job. It allows you to spend all that extra time sinking your teeth into just one topic, and that's where I think you get that stability from. I know, when you're talking about real estate, it's not stable all the time. Like we see shifts in market constantly, right? But if you're doing this and you're doing that and you're getting some income here and you gotta, you're not 100% in real estate and seeing all those shifts. And I mean, when you made that move, I guarantee you saw your business take a nice increase up in real estate,
I mean, you see the memes all over the place. Like the 20% of the agents do 80% of the business and stuff like that. And everybody sees me make videos and have a good time. And like my wife and I, we take our vacations, we do whatever. But like that's only because we have the freedom to do so now.
Right.
It's if you really want to be good at this game, you've got to. I got new agents asking me all the time who like want to join. I say, listen, have at least some reserves because the way our checks work, like you're going to do your first deal, and you might not see that check until 2 to 3 months after.
Yeah.
It's simply, and it's going to be
and preparing for tax season,
right? And it's going to be a good one, but I see it all the time. The first agent will sell like 2 or 3 houses their first week, and they're going to be like, bands, throwing bands. we're going to do great. Everything's fine. I got all this business coming to me. And then they don't work on what they should for the next month, 2 months after that. And then they're sitting there drowning after those 2 checks, and they're like, shit, I'm back at square one. Like I've kind of, and you guys have had to do this too. I kind of had to like contour my brain to think 3 months from now. Like I'm not working for June anymore. I'm not working even for July anymore. What I'm trying to get done is like August, September, like get stuff stacked so okay, I can count on this money coming in.
Well, that's why I joke about the stability of
Absolutely,
the industry, right? You have to create the stability, and stability comes with systems, right? So you build systems for your workflow, you build systems for your cash flow.
Absolutely.
Right? You have to put those systems in place so that you can have some consistency, you can have some stability, and you're not riding the waves, you're kind of riding the line in the middle of the wave, right? So you're coming up to some equilibrium as often as you possibly can.
And there's a big emotional factor as well that comes into play as well. Like when you're in a down part of the year, like in the winter months, naturally we see a decline in people getting out there shopping, right? So you could let that get the best of you and say, oh my gosh, I'm so slow right now. Income's, so low. Or you could say, and then you could do the flip side on, oh my gosh, money's coming in right now. I'm doing so well in the summer months. But you almost have to look at it on an annual basis and not a seasonal basis. But I do see a lot of people get wrapped into that emotional side of it to say and kick themselves when they're down versus preparing for the upcoming spring market and doing all the right things to get your name out there, to let people know what you got going on, what you're doing, so that when they do go out shopping, they're going to recognize you. But I have seen people get into that, oh my gosh, like I got nothing going on, and then sulk in it. So there's that whole emotional side of it as well.
Well, it creates the mindset that you operate from, right? If you're living in a famine mentality, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You got to pull yourself out of that mentality and get into feast mode and get into prosperity mode and get your mind thinking in the way that kind of creates the reality that you then become, you then start living in, right? You have to kind of manifest it to some extent. I know that's a hot buzzword right now, but it's so true.
Yeah.
If you're living in a negative space, or you're living in a space of famine, or a thin mentality, you may stay in that rut for a lot longer than you necessarily would if you were being a little bit more positive.
Yeah.
So Ben, going back to your career trajectory, a lot of folks in your position, as they're evolving their business, start evolving into different types of skill sets, so to speak, or different type of client networks.
Mhm.
Where are you? Like, what type of client would you say you're really an expert in at this stage in your career?
I resonate with my age group really well. And as I've gotten older, that was first-time home buyers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I've really been leaning into, it's not so much like, everybody talks about their niche and like what they work on and everything like that. My niche is never saying the word no. That's kind of where I'm at. I've showed houses in Syracuse. I've showed how probably won't go much past that. Anyway. I think I hit my threshold at that point.
Yeah.
But what I've really been leaning into right now, and the biggest problem I see in the market, is there's this great fear of not having anywhere to go, or like the move-up buyer is effectively frozen right now. And what I've really been leaning into, and that comes to people my age, that comes to anybody who bought their first house, has a crap ton of equity in it, especially the ones that bought in 2020 that have these sub-3 interest rates. And a lot of these neighborhoods have, I mean, Jesus Christ, when I started, you can comfortably buy a really nice ranch in Tonawanda for $150,000.
Yeah.
I can't find you anything less than $300 right now that doesn't need work.
Right.
That's the name of the game right now.
Yeah.
So what I've really been leaning into lately is like, okay, you want to move into your next big thing because you've got more kids on the way, or you just want more space. You want the better lifestyle, essentially. That's kind of what it is. It's, and there's products to help people do that. And I don't think people understand that. Like there's products of like, there's bridge loans.
Yeah.
There's your guys' cash guarantee program. There's,
mortgage recasting,
mortgage
contingency
recasting.
Release program.
100%.
There's so many. And I just got off the phone this morning with a move-up buyer,
Mhm.
right? And plenty of equity in their home.
Mhm.
And I see this on a very regular basis. And they're coming to me very late in the game, where it's like, oh, well, they think we have all this equity in their house,
Mhm.
but then they're just going to roll it over to the next one, and they're going to be contingent on the sale. And it's having that conversation to let them know, like, guys, the market that we're in, having a contingency is going to be a little bit tougher if you're going to try to find a house that's going to have potentially multiple offers. So how can we get you the best pre-approval, the strongest pre-approval possible? Sure. And it's a lot of times it's planning ahead, giving me as a loan officer some time to maybe do a fully underwritten pre-approval letter, to then maybe put you into our cash guarantee program, or doing a contingency release if you have a mortgage that's affecting your eligibility to qualify for the next one, non-contingent. So
let's break that down for 1 second,
Yeah.
because what you're saying is incredibly important for people to understand, and a lot of people watching that are maybe first-time home buyers or aspiring first-time home buyers might not understand the terminology like a contingency, right? But it's so critically important when they're going out there. Well, a move-up buyer in particular it's going to be really important. They were a first-time home buyer, so they never had to deal with a contingency.
Yep.
Now they're a move-up buyer, and they're in that situation. So explain what that means to somebody that has a bunch of equity in their home, and they're now competing in arguably the most competitive part of the market, where there's such a small amount of inventory in that $500,000, let's say $750,000 move-in ready home market in the burbs.
Mm-hmm.
How do they structure their most competitive offer? And how do they eliminate some of the things like you just said, like a contingency, to make sure they're winning that purchase?
So that conversation starts with, what's your plan for your house right now? Are you planning on keeping it, using it as an investment property? Are you planning on selling it? We talk about how much equity you have in your property. At that point, we then talk about the budget for the next house. So here's how much equity you have. Here's how much money you have in your savings right now to be able to put a down payment down. And then there's usually, if you're a move-up buyer that's trying to, either get additional square footage, a nicer home, there's usually an additional gap there where that's your end loan at the end of it, right? So let's say that you have $300,000 or so of equity in your current house. You maybe have $100,000 saved, so you have $400,000 to really play around with, but you want to buy a $650,000 home. There's ways to do that. So at the end of the day, the biggest conversation that I end up finding myself in is educating them on, where my role is that comes in. How I can best assist you is giving you a very strong pre-approval letter so that if you find yourself looking at that $650,000 house and you're going up against 15 other offers, how is yours going to stand out? And getting back to the contingency versus non-contingency, if you have a contingency on your home, needing to sell your house to get that $300,000 equity out to be able to put that down payment down and only qualify for a $250,000 loan, it's gonna probably set you back in the stack of offers that's being looked at by a list agent and a seller.
Right.
So
and the contingency meaning that your financing is contingent upon your current house being sold so that you could get the loan to buy the new house.
Exactly.
I think that's a lot of people hear this term contingency,
right,
and they're like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
Right. So it's from the loan officer's perspective or from the financing company's perspective, right? From the place you're getting the money to buy your new house, you got to sell the old house first. And the seller, the person that's contemplating selling you that property, knows that contingency or that scenario needs to come together in order for you to be the buyer they want to be talking to.
And if you put yourself in the seller's shoes in that situation, not only do they have to rely on you being able to qualify and buy their house, but they have to worry about they have to worry that your house is going to be ready to list, and then it's going to attract a buyer. And then that buyer, if they also have financing, or whatever might be their means of purchasing it, that they're going to qualify and then close on the set,
So there's extra hurdles in place that the seller needs to be conscious of.
And maybe
and obstacles that they need to make sure that their potential buyer needs to overcome.
And we've seen it probably tons of times. Mm-hmm. Maybe that buyer who's buying the house is also selling another house, and they might be contingent. And you might have a situation where there's multiple contingencies,
a domino effect of contingencies.
Yeah, and so that's where on the front end, getting back to that, on the front end, we're vetting all of those options that they have, and there's the conversation usually starts to gravitate towards, well, do we need the proceeds from the sale, or do you have the ability to put a down payment, albeit even if it's 5% down right now, you put a 5% down payment down on, say, a conventional mortgage, then when you sell your house, you could use a program like a mortgage recast, where when you sell your house, you get the proceeds, and then you could take those proceeds and chunk it down on the new home and the new mortgage to help lower your monthly mortgage payment on the new one.
Now, if I'm a buyer in that scenario, and I'm putting less down, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't have access to the proceeds, is my rate going to be better or worse when I recast?
You know what? I mean, rate does have an effect on. It won't change after you recast, right? When you're locking into an interest rate up front. It's usually going to be a fixed rate unless you go with an ARM product. But let's say you do like a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. It's not going to change after you recast. It's going to stay the same. But up front, when we're pricing out your interest rate on your loan, you do get different pricing and maybe a little bit more competitive of rate if you put 10%, 15%, 20% down.
Yeah.
It's not going to move the needle enough where it should change your tactic there. But something to consider. Mm-hmm. But there's other options too. A lot of times when I'm looking at someone's situation and they have the money for a down payment, they don't necessarily need the proceeds from selling their house, but they're contingent because they have another mortgage that might be $2,000 a month. Mm-hmm. And with the new mortgage of being $4,000 a month, that's $6,000 combined mortgage debt that I look at. is affecting their eligibility to qualify.
Sure.
So that's where a program like a contingency release program that helps remove that initial debt from their current mortgage, that $2,000 mortgage, that's where it helps remove that debt and them qualify for the new one. So there's so many programs like that out there, but it takes having that conversation up front, having a loan officer digest your whole, everything you have going on, and then guiding you in the best way. There's bridge loans, like you mentioned. That's another option to pull equity out. They could get a home equity line of credit potentially. There's different ways that they could tap into equity to use it towards a down payment.
Right. So from the perspective of you, Ben, as the realtor, being in such a competitive market, what is the difference maker of having a good level of communication and a good rhythm and a good tactical strategy with a loan officer versus, let's say, one of your buyers that's just working with let's say, wherever they have their checking account, right? And some, call center loan officer that you're not in communication with in any way, shape, or form, structuring their offer from the financing perspective. Right. What difference does that really make when you're going into a buying situation where there's 20 bids?
Yeah. Well, as human beings, we don't make decisions unless we're confident, and confidence doesn't come unless we're not knowledgeable. So in the case of that, where sometimes if you wanted to use one of those, lenders or something like that, you've got to talk to 8 different people to get an answer, and they're sure as shit not answering their phone on a weekend or after 5 p.m. for that matter. This is a market that is absolutely ferocious. I need to there's a chance I might need to show you a house the night it comes on the market. Yeah. And you deserve that as an agent. You also deserve that as a lender you're using.
Right.
So that in itself separates it. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people can't, and there's a reasonable amount of time as to which answers need to be given, and I completely understand that. But I use who I use because the point is the client, right? Like, the client needs to feel like they're being taken care of, and this is a very, very scary thing for a lot of people. So my job, number one, when I come in through your door is to just, hey, I got this, all right? Whatever you got going on in your personal life, that's what I want you to focus on. This whole house thing, this is my shit. Yeah. And we're going to take care of it. Yeah. And who I'm setting you up with, think of them as an extension of me.
Right.
Okay? So you can talk to them like me. I'm obviously very personable. I wear a lot of emotion on my sleeve when it comes to this stuff. Like who I work with is who reflects me. That's why I'm kind of cutthroat when it comes to referrals. If you do me wrong one time, that's one time too much.
Sure.
I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, that's Buffalo.
No, it is what it is.
Reputation is so huge in this industry.
And so to furthermore answer your point, like, you're going to get better service. You're going to get faster answers. And I'm an anxious person. I need fast answers. Yeah. That's very important to me. I'm sure that's very important to a lot of our buyers, right? Mm-hmm. And when you're peeling through all kinds of layers of what makes you competitive in this market, because the three of us know, the gold standard is cash, no contingencies. Right. That's what that is.
Right.
So when you start peeling back layers of like, okay, this is what you need. This is what you need. This is what you need. When you start adding more and more of those things on, that's where the differences really start to come in, right? So working with your lender, understanding the difference between an FHA and a conventional product, understanding like, listen, you can go contingent, but this probably makes more sense for you. You just got to trust us a little bit more. Or down payments, stuff like that. It's super important that you work with a lender that you, A, feel comfortable with, and B, it actually works in mortgages.
Right.
Like there are some personal finance banks that people use that, they can do a mortgage, but that's not what they're on this planet for. Like, in my experience, mortgage banks have a way better time with understanding underwriting and understanding what is needed, and especially taxes. Like these big banks that work all over the country, half the time they got their taxes wrong. I have to call them. I always feel terrible too, because my buyer will be like, well, why did I get approved for $300,000 with X, Y, and Z and not CCM?
Yeah.
and it's like a $50,000 difference.
Yeah.
And I have to tell them, well, because in Williamsville they have your property taxes at $4,000. Brother, that's like 8. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're using Florida taxes or
So
something.
it's knowledge, it's comfortability, it's working in lockstep, and you guys call the sellers to be like, hey, or not the sellers, the listing agent to be like, hey, just backing up Ben's offer here. These guys are locked tight. We're good. We're good to go here. No other hoops to go through. So I think all encompassing to create a environment that is comfortable and allows people to unlock their full potential in this market. I think that's the number one thing.
Yeah, it's definitely having the right products, having the right personality and everything like that. But it's more than that. It's about, trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned it. Like you're sending them over to someone like me at CrossCountry, and they're trusting you for that. But they also have to trust me, and that's what I take. And then trust us as a team, right? Because there's going to be so many levels of individuals in the purchase of a home. Like you have an attorney, you have an appraiser, you have an inspector, you have, an agent, a loan officer. There's so many individuals. You're kind of like the quarterback, I like to say. The agent is.
I like to think of that as that way too.
Yeah.
And there's a reason that I focus so much on your processes, as much as my inspector's processes, as much as my attorney's processes. I probably know more about the legal aspect of things and even the mortgage aspect of things than a decent amount of other agents. And the reason being is because I want to not act as them, but prepare you for that, right?
Which is huge.
Like when you're a buyer coming to me, I don't want you to just call Anthony then be completely caught off guard with what he needs from you. No, he needs bank statements. He needs banks pay stubs. He's going to run your credit. He's going to look at your past tax returns, and then we're going to go from there.
Yeah.
The people that, and then I want preparedness all the time.
Yeah.
As the guy who, I follow, I don't know if you ever heard of him, Ryan Serhant.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Biggest broker
love
in the
Ryan
world.
Serhant.
The dude's the fucking man.
Yeah.
Buyers don't like to be sold. They like to shop with friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if we can create that environment and you're a better buyer because of it,
Right.
that's paramount. That's what that's my entire back of my business.
When you step into the ring as a buyer, right, you're coming off of casually driving through neighborhoods, seeing all these for sale signs, not knowing how much of a lack of inventory there really is in this market, and just how cutthroat the process is. When you say cutthroat, I mean, you were literally in very serious competition for every single house that is even of minor interest to you, let alone something you fall in love with, because then odds are a lot of people are going to be in love with it. So if you don't have an individual like yourself and an individual like Anthony that are high sense of urgency, anxious by nature, answering the phones at, I see, Anthony at a family party on a Sunday on Mother's Day answering calls at 7:30 at night while we're literally at dinner. But that's what it takes to get the job done
in this market.
100%. In this market, and many people that are sitting on the sidelines, whether you're still in renter mode or in comfortable situations with their current living situation, and maybe have not been in this market when it got so competitive. You got to educate yourself before you dip your toe in the water, because it is do or die when it comes to having to make that move.
It's very easy to get discouraged in this market. So you kind of have to be this positive beacon. Yeah. And again, you got to work with the right people to do that. So I made a video the other day about a house that I put an offer on that I thought we were pretty strong. Like, for real. I thought we were good. I don't want to give the address up, but
went $200,000 over.
Just because, well, right. And this was in Tonawanda. It was a ranch in Tonawanda.
Wow.
And it was a full appraisal guarantee. So what that means, folks, is you have a financing contingency or a financing break. Just in case the house doesn't appraise for what you're purchasing for it, the thought is that, okay, that's a point of renegotiation, as long as either attorney can't and the bank can't determine that you could still push forward with the house with what you have. right?
Yeah.
So this house went, according to the agent, because they're never going to tell me exactly what the house goes for, just in case it goes back on the market or whatever.
Sure.
Right. But through the questioning that I asked, pretty much we got to the point, did it go 200 grand over the asking price? And she said almost.
Wow.
I was kind of
And
joking when I said that.
Full appraisal guarantee.
That's scary.
The same day I make that post, I have another really good agent friend of mine who texted me and said, "Are you talking about 123 Main Street?" Which I wasn't.
Wow.
Different house, different neighborhood, probably 20 minutes away, pretty much the exact same
No way.
conversation. Now, this wasn't a ranch. This was a big, gorgeous 2-story in a sought-after neighborhood, blah, 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 whatever. But this shit is happening. And again, I'm not here to tell anybody to be scared, but I would rather have you prepared and understand that it's going to take you a few offers to get used to what we have to do to get this thing done.
When I was in the market 3 years ago to buy my current home, I wanted to stay in the city of Buffalo, and I had a pretty wide breadth of price point that I was considering. I lost out on 7 offers, and I was coming to the table with almost as strong as a cash offer. I was working with Anthony.
Yeah.
We had a pretty bulletproof offer. I was just astonished. I didn't know, and my wife didn't know, and it was I had come off of a previous situation where I had bought a house directly from the seller, so I wasn't really knowledgeable of the market at the time back in like 2015, and I was blindsided by it, and I had to get really serious really quick to get myself in a position where I was able to actually acquire what I wanted to acquire. And it took, Anthony kind of having to give me a reality check, work with a really aggressive realtor, and then ultimately I landed in something that I wanted and fit my needs.
Right.
But that's what it takes. It takes a lot of reality checks. So, and if we could educate more local folks on this platform with one thing, it's just get prepared. Get prepared and get a team around you.
Working with the right people is so crucial.
It's never too early.
It's never too early. So if you're like a W-2 employee, I usually say talk to a loan officer 6 months in advance. If you're self-employed, up to 12 months in advance. I mean, because we might have to strategize. Maybe changing how you pay yourself. Maybe getting ready for tax season. Looking at how you filed previous years of taxes. There's so many different strategies. We could talk about that early if you're self-employed. But I think getting back to the point I was originally making, who you work with is so crucial. I mean, even if you add, a family friend who's an attorney, or my uncle's an attorney, and they don't do real estate transactions. I've had situations where closings got delayed because, title wasn't ordered, or they were literally delayed like a month and a half. And I'm not talking about a couple days.
It's the number one thing that kills deals.
Yeah.
And if you add one of those into the mix early enough on into the process, you might not get your offer accepted because of that. If you're not working with an experienced or, an agent that could have done one or two things differently when it came to structuring your offer, where it could have been the decision maker of you getting it versus someone that might have, bid $5,000 less, but their terms were a little bit better. There's so many different tricks and trades that we know in our industry. And I think the biggest thing is, honestly, that it boils down to is communication and reputation. Because if you have a good reputation where it's like, oh, I've worked with this loan officer before, I've worked with this agent before, their communication is great, they're keeping me updated throughout the process, they're calling me on Sunday night to let me know, hey, you're going to expect an offer tomorrow. They're, from a loan officer perspective, very well qualified. I'll call you again, tomorrow and check in. That goes without saying is giving you a much better chance of getting your offer accepted.
Well, and so many things change. The last time their parents bought something 20 years ago, the laws are completely different.
Yeah.
I still have people that ask me all the time, well, we're going to send a letter. And I'm like, no, you're not.
Right.
Like, it's not a thing anymore. They effectively banned them. You cannot break any fair housing laws in them. So, and that includes everything. That includes age. That includes familial status that includes all of that. Like, you cannot write a letter to somebody that says, we're going to write our family here and we're going to share all kinds of memories in here.
Yeah.
And that's another, like, I feel like I'm just explaining ways that I break people's hearts. But again, this is all in the preparation of it.
Right.
Like, they have kind of stripped the ability to get emotional about it. This is almost entirely a numbers transaction for something that's not very numbers based. Like,
it's a highly emotional decision.
yes,
Oh my gosh.
used to be able to, people used to buy houses because they liked them,
Yeah.
not because they were investment vehicles. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And even just calling the agent and talking to them and being like, hey, what does the seller really want here? I've gotten more deals accepted doing that than anything else.
Communication.
Like, hey, we really want to get out of here, and there's a bunch of shit that we don't want to leave or that we don't want to take with us. Okay. Buyer, are you cool with them leaving some stuff behind? Yeah, actually. Okay, great. And then you get
picking up the phone, having that
all
conversation.
you gotta do.
It's not difficult.
No.
It's not.
It's really not rocket science.
It's not. Well, we've come to the point in the show where we play the Wheel of Buffalo. We'll spin where it lands. We'll
go this
gauge
way or
where your
that
question is.
Either
Whatever.
way.
If you're
Either
a
way?
clockwise guy, you're a counterclockwise guy. All right, Tony, let us know where we landed.
Thing Buffalo gets wrong.
Oh, thing Buffalo gets wrong. So, Ben, the people of Buffalo, it could be the political establishment of Buffalo, it could be the real estate community of Buffalo. It's a pretty wide...
Food.
It's a pretty
anything.
overarching question, right? It could cover whatever you want to cover. So give us a thing that Buffalo gets wrong.
Ooh. I'm trying to see if I want to do this with food or if I want to do this with real estate, because we could go both ways on
You
this.
could go any direction you'd like.
You can do them both.
Yeah, you want to rep out both? Because I can. I got
You want to
things
do
that-
multiple categories?
If that's okay. I
Multiple
don't want to
showdowns?
waste.
Sports.
All right, listen.
sports.
Oh, okay. That'll turn into 3 real quick. Okay. I think people get wrong about the real estate market here is to see the sale prices and like just still think that, oh, that kind of money's not coming here. Like for how high things are going. People, they definitely do. The amount of out-of-towners has gone up 163% since 2020.
That's the actual number?
That's the last time I checked it. It could have been different now, but I did a video on this a few months ago.
Wow.
It's people have the money to pay these prices. And all these new home developments going up and stuff like that. Like, I'm sorry, Buffalo. That we are raising for a reason.
Yeah.
The argument is that we were kind of criminally underrated for a long time and,
Sure.
and undervalued. Our cost of living was so great here. And I'm not saying that it's not. Like, I feel terrible that people were born and raised here are starting to feel getting squeezed and, stuff like that. But, yeah, I mean, homes do sell for that around here. $1 million homes are kind of normal now around here.
Yeah.
So it's not the old Buffalo.
I remember
back in the
it
day.
used to be all over the news when a house would sell at or around the $1 million mark. It was like, house sold for $1 million in the city of Buffalo.
Yep. So that would be the first thing I would say. Do we like that? Okay.
Yeah, no, it's a good answer.
Yeah,
I like it.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
That-
Well, I
honestly,
guess
you
it's
know,
surprising.
you just educated me on a really interesting point. I mean, 163%
Yeah.
increase for out of market purchasers. That's staggering.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole new level of competition added to the fact that there's such a small amount of inventory on the market.
Yeah.
Like, I just did a video the other day talking about, in particular, the city of Buffalo, that there's 671 active listings in a market that has 276,000 residents. That's nuts.
Well, and that ties into the national perspective too, right?
Yeah.
Like, everybody's reading the headlines right now that there's this massive seller increase as opposed to buyers nationwide. Like,
Yeah.
nationwide, there's like 670, depending on what you read,
Yeah.
$670,000 or 670,000 sellers as opposed to buyers. Bub, real estate is hyper local for a reason.
it is.
Since 2020, our real estate market has gained 6% every single year, year over year.
Yeah.
The $300,000 house you purchased in 2020 is now $400,000 through compounding interest. That is no joke.
And it's not like it in every market.
No,
Yeah.
Like you
it's
look
not.
at the Florida market, for instance, they didn't see that same.
Our supply of homes available, like a healthy market is there's 6 months of homes available for the amount of buyers that there are.
Yeah.
Right.
We've been hovering around a month and a half, a month
It's scary.
Yeah.
for like 5 years now.
So for a prospective buyer,
Yeah.
somebody sitting on the sidelines, either waiting for rates to come down, that doesn't own a piece of real estate that is increasing in value at the same commensurate rate as everything that they're considering buying, right? Because that's the only way you level off.
Yeah.
If you currently own something that's appreciating in value, buying something or hoping to buy something that's also appreciating in value becomes a lot more palatable, right? Because you got something that's you're gaining equity on, it's becoming more valuable. It's an even trade-off. If you're sitting on the sidelines paying rent and your savings or your equities or investments aren't also appreciating to not only cover the rate of inflation, but also to cover that increased inflation in home prices, you're really putting yourself in a bad situation.
You waited 2 years for a better interest rate for a house you have to pay $50,000 more on now.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
essentially what happens.
So, I mean, not to say there's a sense of urgency to buy, but it kind of is. I mean, you got to own something.
Right. I mean, what is the difference between a 6 to 10%? I mean, even if the interest rates were 10%, if you like the monthly payments,
Yeah.
who cares?
Right.
Like,
That's the biggest thing.
Own
just
something.
Yeah, and you figure that out by going and getting priced out with Anthony.
Right.
Before we start looking.
I rarely talk about interest rates when I'm talking with someone. I'm building a budget with them that works for them, and I'm giving them guidance on if you're shopping in this area with this taxes roughly. This is the budget that you want to shop within, whether that's $200,000, $400,000, whatever works with their monthly payment based on, in the back of my head, knowing where rates are right now. Now, if rates fluctuate, I'm going to have that conversation with, if it's a drastic change for, lower or, at a higher rate, then we're going to talk about that changing their budget. But hopefully the market stays a little more stable than it has lately.
So, Ben, before we wrap up, you got some content. You're always we're all seeing you and all the time. Podcasts, social media. Give some plugs. Where can people hear a little bit more from you on a more consistent basis?
I'm very, very active on my Instagram, Benjamin Domagala _RE. I post all the time on there. It's what I use as my vehicle to kind of like educate and do whatever. It's real estate stuff. It's definitely food stuff. I'm starting to get back to that, and we're getting a lot of turnout with that. I have a website that kind of works like a home search engine, like a Schmillo. I don't think I can say it. But BenjaminDomagalaRE.com, and you just sign up. You get cool stuff by me. But yeah, that's where you pretty much find me everywhere. It's kind of what I use is like my medium to like do all that stuff.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome. All right, you heard it here from Benjamin Domagala of WNY Real Estate. Ben, thank you for being on the show. You've educated me. Anthony, as always, educates me on everything mortgage related. We are powered by CrossCountry Mortgage of Buffalo. Thank you for having us here in the CCM studios. Like us on Instagram, follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube, check us out on Spotify. We are Lock In Buffalo.